You guys are great.
You'll take your
Uh,
family out,
I don't
Pookie?
want to go, but I'm just, I don't know.
You
You
feel like
can
you
look
gotta go
forward
do
to
stuff?
another
Tell me,
go.
what else do I have to do?
Come back later.
All right, all right, all right, fine. I'll stay on for a little longer then.
You
All
can do
right.
whatever you want. We're not making you feel bad.
No, not at
No,
all.
now my wife is.
Oh, okay.
Oh, okay.
Well, since you're here,
You guys aren't allowed to, but my wife is. Tracy's allowed to make me feel bad.
Okay, well, if she
I
wants
got-
All right, honey.
I got one thing for you before you leave.
What's that?
It's something that says, "Why do you have epilepsy?" I was gonna go around and ask everybody that, but since you're leaving,
Why?
will we get
Why
yours
do I have
first?
that?
Okay, let's
Again,
do
because
this.
I've got nothing better to do.
Someone else in the comments said, "Because I'm the chosen one."
There you go.
Somebody
Hey,
once asked
I like
me.
that. That's a good answer.
At one time, I had an encounter online where I was about to go to bed. This was a long time ago, but I was about to go to bed, and somebody had asked me why. I said, because I need to sleep. And they were like, well, I stay up until 2 a.m. And so I just like went for the guilt trip option and was like, okay, well, I have epilepsy. And if I don't get enough sleep, I'll have a seizure. And the person was like, oh, okay. And I was like, yeah. And then the person said, why do you have epilepsy?
Again, I was the chosen one. That's a good answer. I like that. Because
yeah,
hey,
I have to go
we
to
read
bed.
about-
I have a bedtime because I have epilepsy.
I have a bedtime at 10 o'clock.
That's
go
the
to
time
bed.
I take
Mine
my
is 9
pills.
to 10 o'clock. Like,
Well, my wife will stay up all night, but myself, I go to bed 10, 10:30, 11 o'clock. I can't go, I can't make it past that.
I used to stay up super late, but now
I
have
can
bedtime.
stay up super late, but I'm not gonna be able to once I start
Not
college.
going to be able to function.
Yeah, because my neurologist says that I have to have 8 hours of sleep every night, and I've been going to sleep at like midnight. So that once I start college, I'll probably be needing
There
to
you go. You go, girl.
a little earlier.
So, Pokey, did we all answer that question for you?
No, we didn't.
Nope.
We'll start with you, so you can. You'll leave afterwards. So you.
All right. Why am I epileptic? Well, when I was a kid, now me and my brothers used to fight with Tonka trucks. I don't know if any of you guys know what Tonka trucks are.
Mhm.
Of course we
So
do.
Tracy, I'm 64, and these guys, I think maybe, how old's the oldest
Tonka
one?
trucks never went away.
Okay.
And
They're
boy,
just
they're metal
underneath
and
Legos
hard.
now.
My
Yeah.
head is a scar
Ooh.
because we used to fight with Tonka truck. I want that one. No, you can't have it. Bang. You know? So, I mean, now that's a bit exaggerated, but you know, that's the closest I can come to why I have seizures. Is from head trauma. Either that or I was premature when I was born. Somebody said it might have been a lack of oxygen. I don't know. I don't know. So next. Go ahead, Rachel.
I can be next. Well, I got in a car accident when I was 5. Run over by the car. I had one seizure back then when I was 5, and then I didn't have more seizures until I was 16 in high school. I had one. They thought it was just computers from being in front of a computer in class. The second one, they were like, "Oh, you have epilepsy." So
Good luck with that.
right, that's what I tell myself all the time.
Good
Right.
luck.
Wrong place at wrong time.
Right. And I don't remember waking up that morning. I just remember waking up in the hospital 33 days later after the accident.
Oh, good gracious.
Oh,
I woke up thinking I was late for school, and
Yeah,
I was
33 days.
33 days late.
Oh no.
Wow, that's messed up.
that
I'm
is
so sorry.
yeah.
I'm so sorry.
It's all right.
I thought I had problems.
We all got problems.
You got me beat, my brother.
Mm.
Yeah, you got hit with a Tonka truck, though.
Oh, I got hit with
over
many.
and over. Yeah.
I just love
Well,
my brothers, but I
Man.
want his Tonka truck.
They never narrowed down the cause of mine.
That's
So
we
I don't have
don't
anything to
know.
contribute to that question.
Don't know yet.
I've given up at this point. I just say like never know. I'll just go with the intractable diagnosis
What do
and leave
they
it at that.
call that? They when they don't know what your the cause. Isn't there a name, a word they call that they use?
I think that's what intractable
And
comes
try. Oh
from.
yeah, okay. I think that's what the yeah.
So apparently
Sorry
the
to hear that.
primary care physician, I'm hearing now from the, resident medical expert here, that the primary care was trying to say that they knew, oh, that I got epilepsy because I had a high fever one time. But then
You just
froze
froze.
up.
You just froze.
Katie, you froze up.
Katie.
Katie, come back.
trying to,
All right,
the
somebody
PCP
do
tried
a
to pin it on like
screenshot.
one fever.
There she is. Yeah. So one fever. Wow. Okay.
Yeah. Oh, okay. So they're saying like it was triggered by puberty, but caused by this like one-time fever when I was little.
Great.
Some other doctor was looking at them like they're crazy. So I don't know. It just sounds like a power trip to me. I'm just gonna go with intractable.
Well, there is something called puberty. It's it is caused by puberty.
Catamenial.
So I don't know, something like that.
Yeah. Well, that's
And then
where
there's
it's linked
childhood
to your
where
hormones,
uh,
or
it's-
at least partially, if not completely.
right. It's just a word they use because they can't think of why. There's childhood epilepsy where you either grow out of it. Some people grow out of being epileptic,
Mm-hmm.
Lucky.
but yeah, not you, not me. Well, actually, I know I was 13, so I guess I skipped that boat. But they say that they have different reasons, causes, or whatever for it, and a lot of it they don't have a clue. Most of it.
With the
Yeah,
car
maybe they don't
accident
have a
with
clue
mine,
because the pharmaceuticals don't want them to have a clue.
Yeah.
You know what? They say there's, I read this somewhere, 21 epileptic um pharmaceuticals, drug. 21. And they all have different side effects. Now, excuse me. Is there not a way to tighten this number down a little bit?
right?
I mean, 21 different medications and they all have got their own side effects? Are they trying to kill us or what?
I have
Yep.
I have chronic fatigue syndrome just as a side effect, just because of all of the different medications I'm taking.
I feel like I'm chronic fatigue too.
Mm,
And who
All
is
the
it?
time.
Somebody told us they're taking 16 different types of medication.
yeah.
Yeah, I heard that
I
too.
mean, that's how. I mean, you must be completely stoned all the time.
Yeah. You know, it's
Sounds great. No, I'm playing.
not really, because it's not a good sound, right?
You still smoke pot, right?
Who,
Of
me?
course.
You're
Nah.
one of those that CBD or you eat gummies
Flowers. Indica,
as
flowers.
an anti-medication and anti-seizure medication. You eat CBDs.
I take CBD, but it does not get me high.
Yeah,
do
my
not.
Epidiolex doesn't do anything
Yeah.
for me particularly, but I do take some extra because
Yeah.
I
I
mean,
smoked pot most all my life.
I was
Yeah.
doing it
But
before
that's when it
I
was
got
illegal.
it. So,
Now it's legal.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's not a big deal.
You had to sneak and smoke
I
back
missed
then.
the boat.
Yeah.
And I took it when it was illegal. Now you could go up to the drugstore and buy it. Or
I
up to
couldn't
the,
imagine having to sneak to smoke weed.
Yeah. Oh, I can. I lived in Virginia. Ooh.
Oh,
I grew up in Virginia, in the Shenandoah Valley, like.
I grew up in
seriously.
Philadelphia,
Mm-mm.
Pocono Mountain. Well, you lived in the mountain range, Pocono Mountain Range.
I lived in the Appalachian on one side
Yeah,
and the
with
Blue Ridge on the
Appalachian.
other.
Yeah, that's what I
Blue
meant.
Ridge Mountains on
Appalachian.
one side and the Appalachian Mountains on the other side. Yeah. I
Yeah.
was 10 miles from the West Virginia border. Very, very dreamy.
Yeah, that was a grow that was a grow field.
Yeah, but boy, howdy, do not get caught by anybody because you will pay.
Talk about that small town shame.
Oh, like the
Yeah.
cops were crazy. It was,
Oh yeah.
yeah. Oh my gosh.
Well,
I don't know if anything caused my epilepsy. I think my epilepsy might be intractable, but I can tell the story of my first seizure because I have horrible memory, but I do remember that. The first trigger was my parents had just sprayed our yard with pesticide.
Oh,
And because they didn't know.
right.
And nobody knew.
Oh
And
God.
that's just another.
my
poison.
last at my old house, the backyard was huge, like huge. Like there were snakes and all, and like it was like a jungle,
Something.
jungle down there. And I was 2 years old, and I had just been playing with my brother Joseph and one of the neighbors, and we had just been playing outside, and then we came inside, and I remember we were going to play with toy cars, and all of a sudden I felt really weird, and I felt really emotional and really weird, and I didn't quite, and even as a little 2-year-old who had no idea what epilepsy was, I remember thinking there's not quite something right. And so I, my brother was a teenager at the time, and I thought I might just be tired. So I told him I'm gonna go lie down on that table because I was a small enough human to be able to lie down on a table. And he was like, okay. And I remember I like watched them for a second, and I remember like it just all like crowded in on me. The feeling like crowded on me. And then that's all I remember. That's when I had the seizure.
That was your first recollection.
That was my very first recollection.
My
I
very
can't even
first
remember mine.
recollection, I was 16, so it was my second seizure. I just remember waking up, going down the hallway in my high school, and I was like, why am I on a stretcher? And why am I like leaving my high school? And all these kids are sitting here looking at me. And from the school to the ambulance to the hospital. I talked to someone recently who was next to me when that happened in high school. And he was like, I seen you like cramped up under a desk and I couldn't do anything but cry.
Oh my God.
Oh my gosh.
That was very comforting.
Yeah, of course.
Wow.
And I gave him a treat.
Yeah, he was explaining like, oh, the last time I seen you, this is what happened. And he was just like, I couldn't do nothing but cry. He was like, it was my first time seeing that.
I had a friend for a while, and her mom, when I was a kid, I had this friend, and she would always take me places. And my mom would always ask her, are you sure, in case Rachel has a seizure, are you going to be able to handle it? And she would always say, her mom would always say, oh, I can handle it. Don't worry. And then one time I had a seizure, and she said, okay, that was super traumatic.
I'm
I
done.
don't want to handle it.
I'm done. That's more than I can handle.
Yeah. So I have epilepsy because my mother had postpartum depression, and she didn't like me very much, and I had a cast iron crib, an antique cast iron crib, and finally, after like 5 specialists searching my MRIs, they found they knew where it was coming from, right? So they just had to find why, right?
Right.
And they finally found there's an exact line right here. It goes behind my ear, and it's
Oh my
straight,
gosh.
very straight. my brain goes in.
Oh,
And it
God.
never developed because she smacked me that hard into the crib. Like she either threw me in
Oh
there
my
or
God.
she whacked me. And I wouldn't necessarily say that, except two things. We had a gigantic puppy at the time. He was like half black lab, half Great Dane. And some point between when I was born and when I was 6 weeks old, he stopped letting my mother anywhere near me, like at all. Like if I cried, he stood over my crib and wouldn't let her anywhere near me. And my dad was at work, right? So he would come home to the dog not letting my mom near me. And the dog wasn't mean. He wasn't attacking me. He was
Yeah.
trying to protect me, right? But
Yeah.
my dad didn't know that, you know. He just knew that all of a sudden this puppy wouldn't let my mom near me. So my mom made him get rid of the dog, which is
Oh.
terrible.
Poor dog.
Absolutely. But
Yeah.
anyway, and the other thing is when I got my diagnosis and everything turned, and then I gave her every opportunity to come up with a story, any story. I said, you know, the doctor said it could have been maybe I had a fever, you know, when maybe you got sick when I was in your tummy, maybe I fell, maybe this, maybe, you know, I really gave her every opportunity.
Yeah.
And she said, no, nothing, ever. Look, lady, I've seen the
Come on, you can come up
pictures
with something.
and I've seen what you did to my 4-day-old preemie son when you were unhappy. She threw him at my husband, and if he hadn't caught him, he'd have hit the concrete floor. And I'm sorry, but if that's how you feel about your grandchildren, what did you feel about me? I'm sorry, but
Awful.
That
it's
dog
kind of
had a story to tell.
and
Yeah,
there
that dog.
if it
I
wasn't
dog
for the
knew
fact
you
that
had
I
a-
remember things from when I was a toddler and shit, like maybe I wouldn't even believe that, but I do. And
After that, oh my gosh.
so I just was like, okay, you did do this then. Like it wasn't just you were a bad mom when I was a toddler or whatever. She did a lot of terrible things, but this is her 100%. I believe it. My father has passed away when I was 22, so I can't ask him anything else except that he told me 100 times about that dog. So what do you got, right?
When you talked about throwing babies, I wouldn't exactly say
Exactly.
I wouldn't have thrown a baby, but I had a seizure.
No,
Like,
you
my
don't.
daughter
You
was
don't do
born.
that.
Please, no, I
My
don't
daughter
even
was
want to hear
born, and I
about
had
it.
a seizure, and someone caught her because they just let me fall. They caught the baby. She's newborn. Hours, not even hours. So I did not know what happened. I woke up in the emergency room downstairs instead of where I was. So when that had happened, I didn't know where I was. There was no nurse in there, no one to tell me don't leave. So I left and I went back upstairs. And I was like, why do I have a gown on? And they're like, here's your clothes in these bags. You peed on yourself and you had a seizure and you almost dropped your daughter.
Oh no.
Oh God, I'm so sorry.
That's awful.
Someone called her and they were like, let's catch her. He'll be all right.
No. Oh.
Girls, that's why
But you didn't do it because you were mad.
No.
when I hear that you girls have had babies and you have seizures, grand mal seizures, I'm like, oh my God, how is this possible?
Yeah.
What? Your children are alive? Pokey, your kids are what, 5 years old and older?
Oh, no, that child, she's 16 now. She just turned
Okay,
16.
well, see, this, I mean, I'm thinking like that's, how is this possible? But obviously it must be because your kids are grown.
My grandpa has epilepsy. He's had epilepsy. He's dead now. But
Okay.
yeah.
Yeah. I had seizures in every pregnancy and the delivery of my youngest, who's 35. But I hadn't been diagnosed, but I wasn't getting medication. So that medication wasn't a problem, but it sure made the pregnancy interesting.
Oh, I bet.
Yeah, my
Yeah.
gosh.
Like
Yeah.
it isn't weird enough.
Oh, I know.
Yeah,
And
and then you go through
how spooky.
childbirth, and I hear some of the triggers is stress.
Oh, for
Isn't
God's sake, yes.
childbirth a bit
Yeah.
stressful?
So ever since all this happened, if I even talk to my mom, I end up having cluster seizures for like a week.
Oh
So
no.
don't do that no more.
Did that intentionally when I was in the EMU. I talked to my ex-husband
Oh
and
yeah?
they
To try
saw
to set it off?
it did. I was still on the phone and I have no other word for him but asshole. Psychiatric has plenty of words for him, but he had me, I'm like, do you know where I am right now? Yeah, and he was one of the promoter of, oh, this is bullshit. She's making it up, and
I
my
hate
kids
him
were like,
too.
Dad, we just went to see her in the ICU. She ain't faking it, okay?
I've got a friend who, after meeting me, told me that his parents once saw someone have a seizure and just blamed it on the person, and we're like, oh, you're just trying to get attention, you're faking it. And I was
Oh,
like,
Yeah, how many times have I heard that? Oh, well, that's it. You're faking it.
do you guys know?
Neurologists are telling them that they're faking it.
Right. Do you know? that-
And one of them had a seizure in his office.
oh, yeah.
And we're just, you're
I
just,
had a seizure in the back of a squad car because I was seizing in some store. I was in Buffalo and they called the police. And the police dragged my fat body into a squad car, put me in cuffs, only to find me purple and not breathing. And they had to call an ambulance, okay?
I found that the first thing that they ask is always about drugs.
Yeah,
and
what
it's
drugs
like,
yeah.
What did you take?
Dopamine. And I'm naming my medications. No, what drugs did you take? I don't know what you're talking about. And they expect you to answer when you're having a seizure. Fuck you. Yeah, no, don't.
Like, sorry, I'll get my list out as soon as I'm done.
Yeah, right.
As I'm done, I'm pulling
Here,
my
let me
Start
finish.
off with
phone in the
Kepler.
I'll let
since
you know.
we're telling our stories, mine is that I have a cyst about the size of a kiwi, I think they said.
Oh, wow.
So they're not sure. They say that the cyst might be contributing to epilepsy. They seem to think that they're kind of like going hand. Oh, wait, are you guys? It seems like someone's frozen.
No, I'm here.
I'm here.
Okay.
Oh, yeah. He went to
Yeah,
get
so
bells.
they seem to think that the cyst and the epilepsy are going hand in hand or something like that.
Yeah.
So yeah, so I've got a pretty big cyst and I've been having seizures, and they started removing the cyst and the surgery went terribly. I think we talked about that a little bit.
Oops.
And I was in the hospital forever, so
So sorry.
yeah. That
So
I
was
have
still
I
there.
have something I don't know if it's here or not, but when I went to get my first surgery in like a different state, they didn't, there are the two kinds of epilepsy. I'm trying to I can't remember the names of them for some reason. But Children's of Alabama had all decided that I had one of them, and my parents had decided that I had one of them, and they didn't. And Boston just decided that I had the other just because they didn't respect us, assumedly because we were from the South. And there was this one doctor who was so awful. Like I walked in the room and he walked in the room and then he started staring at me. And I was like, okay, I was like panicking and I was like, okay, what's going on? And then he turns to my parents and he says, is she cognitively normal? I can't tell.
Oh, how
Why
old
not
were you?
just talk to you like a human
know.
being?
I know. How
God.
could they do that? How could they say that?
Is she cognitively normal? Yeah, I
I
know.
can't tell.
Like,
Uh,
how
I'm
old were you?
upset.
That was in 2020. That was in
Oh my God, Rachel,
2020.
you gotta be kidding me. I had a doctor say to me, you do not have the cognitive ability to understand your condition.
That's
Well, thank you
awful.
very
And
much.
I'm like, so you're saying this because I'm telling you things about my condition that you weren't aware of.
Mhm.
He just kept going
And
too.
he-
He was my
And this guy kept doing it. And I'm like, go ahead, dig the hole deeper, and then I'll push you in.
yeah. And, yeah.
You know?
And then he was just like, and my parents were like, yeah, she's cognitively normal. And
What
and
an
he was
ass.
like, and he like wanted evidence. And so they were like, well, she played violin when she was young. And so he he turns to me and he starts snapping my fingers and he's like, tell me what the key of like whatever is. And I'm like panicking. And it's been so long since I've played. And then
What a
you
jerk.
don't do that to somebody.
This is where I say, and I'm maybe because I'm cynical and defensive because the way I've been treated like that for 40 years. This is where I say that they take advantage of a vulnerability, and I take advantage of that.
Of their ignorance.
I do. And I will sit there quietly and, you know, if they really want me to. And then I will rip them apart with their scholarly article abstracts.
The funniest part is, you know, they said it was the other kind of epilepsy because we
There's
said it was
Vocal in
because
general.
focal or general. It was I can't remember. I have been trying to distance myself from epilepsy because of all the hospital
Bless
Good
you.
luck with that.
injuries. So please
Let
forgive
me
me
know how
if I
that
don't
works
know
out
everything.
for you.
But then they ran some tests and they found out that it was the one that my parents and all the doctors from, you know, Alabama thought it was. And then that same doctor like came up to mom and was like, you know what? I know I said it was the other one, but deep down I actually knew it was the one you guys said the entire time.
Oh,
Sure.
oh,
No, he reads minds and
Exactly.
stuff.
exactly. You know, I have to laugh because that's what my favorite neurologist said to me. He's like, you may have all that magical, mystical stuff, but I read minds. And I'm like, I love you. I love that guy. You know, he was the best doctor I ever had.
Minds. What kind of medication is he on?
I don't know. Neurologist. He was my epileptologist. He was the
Oh,
best.
this is an epileptologist is saying this.
Well,
He
he
was being
said,
funny.
yeah, he was
He
being
was
funny.
just being
Silly.
funny.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was my doctor.
That's a
Oh,
good
all
joke,
right.
though.
And
For real.
saying he reads minds, and he's sitting there with brain scans and EEG
He
graphs.
reads
pretty
brain.
funny.
Okay, that
Yeah.
makes more sense.
I like it.
Yeah.
And it's
All
like,
right.
okay.
That is really funny.
Yeah,
Yeah.
it's like, be careful when you're around me because I see everything, you know. And that's
Yeah,
the,
but it's on
I
the
can
EEG
appreciate
or
that
the
rather than,
EKG.
you know, somebody being that aggressive and almost hostile, like you mentioned, Rachel. That's hostile.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
you know, if you want to find out how strong I am, go ahead and trigger a seizure. Okay.
Yeah.
Yeah, there you go.
I do
Yeah,
apologize.
hold me down. That's what you do.
They also while I was in Boston, they another difference between the two places that I noticed is when I was in Boston, they wanted permission to do, I think it was an SEEG where they glue, you know, the wires to your brain and then
Right.
you know, yeah, you know it's SEEGs.
Yeah.
And they present in Boston, they presented me with the idea and I found it horrifying and I was like, no. But it was required for the surgery. So then like they spent like the next week being like, it would be really great if you would, and being like, wouldn't it be awesome if you just said yes to this until eventually
Wouldn't it be awesome
We'll
if
just
you
call
just
it
told me
good.
I have to? If you tell
like
if you tell me
it was really funny because the way they presented it to me was the lady said to me, and remember, what happens to your body is all up to you, and not even meaning any disrespect. I just laughed in her face.
I wish I had that.
there's some
I wish I was able to say that for myself.
yeah.
I've got all that control.
I had to get
Yeah,
down
just
on
realized
my
what was going
knees.
on, and I was like, okay, fine, you can do it. But then in Alabama, my doctor just came up to me and was like, hey, this is required for the surgery, and it's not going to be fun, but it's required for the surgery. You're going to have to do it. It's
Yeah.
tough, but you're going to have to do it. And I'm like, I'd rather that than being like, you
Yeah.
have complete control. You
Yes.
don't actually, but
Don't patronize me. Just give it to me straight. And if you treat me
Yeah.
like a child, yeah.
Yeah.
I
That's the
know it's
vulnerability I'm
very unlikely that in all of Boston you're with someone that I know, but I have to ask, who did you see in Boston?
we went to the children's hospital, actually. I've been under children's for a while.
Oh,
Oops,
interesting.
sorry, guys.
Okay.
Like, and by a while, I mean my entire life.
Oh, interesting. Okay.
Getting
You've
the
been going
kayak
to the
out.
children's hospital?
Yeah, it's because my epilepsy started when I was 2, and then when I was 8, and I'm 20 now and a legal adult, but they just never let me go because like
Well, good.
they're still because what?
Well, they know you.
Right.
Yeah, because they know
Yeah,
me and they know
yeah.
my case,
I
and
wouldn't
they
leave.
You can go
it's still
through
ongoing.
21 or 22, right?
What?
Won't they continue to take you through 21 or 22?
I think so.
Yeah. I mean,
Yeah,
I
sure hope so.
I have twins that are 20. They're going to be 21.
I could be
My
wrong.
idea is that I
don't
think
know. I
that
could
their
be wrong.
pediatrician had said the same thing to them, is that they could continue to go there until they were through their to 21, until they were 22. So, yeah. But not that that has anything to do with you, but I just think probably Children's Hospital has
I know. No, you're
similar
Yes.
ideas. But yeah,
Yeah.
probably because you've been with them for so long, why would you want to change? I'm sure they would
Yeah.
want you to. That's great. I mean, wow. So, the thing you're talking about that you had done there, where they glue them onto your brain,
Yeah, SEG.
so the person that told me about that,
Mhm.
because they had been pushing the exploratory surgery since I got diagnosed, basically,
Mhm.
because it's a teaching hospital, right? You got a UC, you got a college there, you're going to want to teach some kids. Anyways, point being, the one who actually told me about that part was the EEG specialist that puts them on your scalp, right? And she's sitting here going, oh, that's where your spot is. So what we'll do is we'll cut a hole out of your skull and we'll freeze it. And then we'll put this wonderful mesh inside your brain,
Yes.
in between your brain and your
Describe it
skull,
like it's a horror
and
movie.
keep it for a week. And then we'll get the scans, and then we'll use those to cut a bigger hole and take.
Oh my
export it. And I'm
gosh,
going,
honey, no.
the doctor didn't say that. And she's like,
Yeah.
well, I'm just telling you the truth. And I'm going, thank you, because I think you would have
I
lied to
don't want you
me.
to tell me that. I've got
I'm
a
very
little
glad that I
hole.
was against it, and they didn't even tell me that. They didn't like go into gory detail. They were just like, "We're gonna put it on your brain."
It was just like an EEG tech who explained it to me, and I was floored because
Well, fun fact,
none of the
my skull
epileptologists
is
was talking about it.
permanently
Mm-mm. And I was like, wow,
I
okay.
don't know if I still have the pictures, but again, I had this little quarter-sized
Right.
divot in the side of my head, and I had a patch that they put on my brain. I had all these wires coming out of my head, and I was tethered to a wall. How long, Tracy? About a week?
Yeah.
Yeah. And it was long enough so I could go to the bathroom
Get
You
rid
couldn't
of
shower?
it.
for a week.
Oh,
No,
yeah.
after that, I don't know if I could have gone to a shower. No. I would have
No shower.
electrocuted myself.
Yeah,
Well,
no, I wouldn't be able to get out of bed. I wouldn't be able to do anything.
Oh, I
Definitely.
couldn't shower for like the whole time, the whole first month of my ridiculously long hospital time. But
Oh,
fun
gosh.
fact about my whole ridiculous surgery snafu, a part of my skull is permanently gone. I just have some mesh back there, so that's some fun.
Yeah.
Oh, honey,
Sorry.
they can't do anything?
Nope.
They
It's just
can't.
back there to make
There's
some extra room.
Yeah, and they
Wow.
can't really technically reattach skull, and it won't regrow. It has to be attached with pieces of metal, and then it's got to have the mesh to protect around the edge. My husband's got one like this big. Where he
Sailor, is your name Rachel?
No,
What's your name?
my my name is Kimberly.
Kimberly. All right.
My name's Rachel.
Yeah.
Oh, I know you're Rachel. No.
You know what?
We have a
My
couple
mother-
of
Kimberly,
Rachels.
Sailor, do you mind me calling you Kimberly?
You can call me Kimberly. That's fine.
Okay. I don't want to call you Sailor Moon or Sailor Mom. So.
It's all right. It's fine.
All right. Thank
But-
you.
Amazingly, my mother's name is Rachel.
Whenever I hear of
earlier,
anybody whose name is
And
Rachel besides
I'm
me, I'm like,
sorry.
no.
I cut somebody off. I'm sorry.
No, you're fine. I don't
Annie, was that you?
Annie?
No, not me.
Were you
Nope, I'm
talking?
here. I'm playing with
Oh.
my I'm trying to change my
Whatever.
camera. I had to move around and I don't know what's going on with this thing.
Oh, maybe Reese was saying something that she was talking about her.
Reese, I'm
her
sorry, honey. I'm
space where she's
sorry.
missing
No,
a
it wasn't me.
piece.
Oh
in the
no,
map before.
I don't remember.
TMI.
My memory is so bad these days, but I
There
can
it goes.
talk. I just I don't think that I'm getting metal back there. I think that
Yeah,
it's
probably
just,
not. If you've only got a small spot, they're not going to stick a
I'm
piece
here,
of
Tom.
skull and little metal pieces on to hold it. It would only be if it was a large section of your skull. It's not something you do for a little piece.
Yeah,
And see,
so
that's
I
what
just got-
eventually they would probably do back here on me. I would have, like Tom has, a divot if they did the exploratory. I don't know.
When you say exploratory, is it just exactly what you're saying? Exploring, like just go and check it out and
And take.
Well, mine, I
some,
had a
Wake
piece
me
of-
up and see how much I can talk and move.
Yes. See, that's the thing about the surgery.
Don't tell you that
There's
stuff.
different parts of your brain. You know, one's for, your sight, your speech, your motor skills, and they have to find out when you have a seizure what part of your brain.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And they told me, well, this is what's going on. We know where the seizure's coming from, but we don't know if it's going to interfere with your motor skills or whatever. I mean, it's been 20 years. There was a portion of my brain where the seizures were coming from. They didn't know if they were going to do the surgery. I had to make the decision. My wife made the decision as to whether or not it was worth the chance, whether or not, because I could lose my motor skills or my sight or my speech. So that is an issue that you have to deal with. Anybody that is considering surgery, that's your problem.
In my last
Me.
surgery, sorry, you can go. You can finish. I was just gonna say, in my last surgery, I lost a lot of language skills, which I had to work on, and I also lost about all of my basic math skills,
Right.
and surprisingly, I also lost 2 years worth of drawing experience, which was odd, but you couldn't deny it looking at what I drew then versus what I had drawn before. There was a noticeable difference.
Right.
And it sucked, especially with the math, because before that, math was my favorite thing to do. And well, my favorite subject. I don't know about my favorite thing to do, but it was one of my favorite subjects. I really, really enjoyed it. And now it's the other day I was out with a friend and we got food and the bill came and I had to ask my friend to take out the calculator app on my phone and
Where
do
you
the
used
math
to be
for me,
able
because
to-
even just basic subtraction made my head hurt so much.
It's funny. I've got this. I play this game called Travian, and I have to do a lot of math because it's there's troops, there's like hundreds of thousands of troops, and you've got, oh, it's just a lot of calculations. I have to use a calculator.
Yep.
I used to, I mean, it was simple to me. But
Yeah.
even
My
little
mom
numbers.
Yeah, my mom told me math is the hardest thing you can do with your brain, and that's why it hurts my head nowadays. Is because, I may be getting a little better at math nowadays, but it's still it's striking the spot like where I imagine it's striking the spot where my basic math skills used to be, and now there's nothing there. And so it's like it's not there anymore. And so it just brings up, like, I had to do also Spanish. I took Spanish for a little bit, and the teacher was like, let's do math with Spanish. And I just could not do it. And I had to email him and be like, I can't do this. This is why. I'm so sorry.
I couldn't do that. Yeah. Yeah, my math skills have really, I used to be, I managed stores. Like, what do you do?
Yeah.
You manage stores, you count in registers, you count out registers, you do the bookkeeping every morning and night, you doing all of that. And there became a point where I just was not very good at doing that particular part and had to hand it over to somebody else, one of my other employees, to do.
Especially sucks when it's like something you really love doing. And like,
And something I should, like, I'm like, look at it and I'm going, guys, I've done this for like 5 years. Why can I
Yeah.
not do this? Like,
Yeah,
and it's
and
not just here for 5 years, but like 20 years, other places. Like, this is
and it's like
embarrassing.
even when people like give you the actual explanation, which is like, it's like, oh, you
No
had
one
a
accepts
surgery. It's like it doesn't help. It just makes me like, sure,
You're
it should
mad.
help, but it's like it just sucks because I used to be able to do this so effortlessly, and now it's like for math I need a piece of paper or I can't do it at all, and I can only do certain. It's like I used to be able to do this in my head, and it used to be so easy, and now I can't do it. Like,
That's the
If it
thing about
wasn't
me
for,
is I didn't lose math. Like I was always like really good at math. I still got that. The thing with me is memory and then writing words or typing, because I'll write 4 or 5 words. And sometimes I'll forget what I'm even writing. So I go back to the beginning and start over. And I do that several times. So that's the only thing is writing and typing for me. I go back and I read after every 3 or 4 words
yeah,
because
my comprehension is absolutely hideous.
I'm
And
fine
my
with,
Bible reading,
yeah,
okay, I will read the same scriptures over and over, and
yes,
I can quote them.
yeah,
I can quote them, but if I'm reading them, I have to
yeah.
read them and then and I mean I've read the Bible so many times, but in 23 years, but when I'm reading it,
It's,
I
yeah,
have to reread it.
you
Read
have
it.
to reread it because sometimes it feels like
It doesn't
feels like
connect.
it sometimes it feels like you've read it, but it didn't process. And
Yes.
with
Yes, it
right, yeah,
stopped halfway
yeah.
through. It
Yeah,
quit.
it stopped. Your brain was just like, no. And with the writing, I'm fine with writing, but I'll often realize like there'll be like most there'll be like a million typos, or like I have to have an
Spell
hour
check.
each morning
Yeah.
where I just do nothing because I have
Uh-huh.
epilepsy stuff floating around my head for the first hour. And I'll like read something that I wrote in, and sometimes I'll be like, why did I write it like that?
Right.
Because it's just like I'll remember what I was trying to write, and most of the time it'll come out fine, but sometimes it's just like typo here, or like what?
Missing word there.
Yeah.
Autocorrect did
And my
some very
grammar.
bizarre on autocorrect.
Yeah.
Yeah, and my grammar's hideous.
Yeah, yeah. Unfortunately, I have the same, or worse, my spelling has gotten like,
Yes.
likewise
Yeah, you
my
guys
my
are, yeah.
not my spelling, but I'd say my handwriting has gotten much worse since I didn't have to use it after high school. My handwriting has got ridiculous. I was like, I did not write like this.
Oh yeah.
Oh,
I'm
I don't
half
actually
cursive
write
and
anymore.
no.
I have to
Since I
write
don't have to
everything.
write anymore, you don't get the skill, just goes away.
Yeah, I'm mostly fine with handwriting, but like I always have to be very careful when I'm writing on like digital, because like one time I remember I wrote out an entire page for like a project that I had come up with, and I showed it to my friends, and I was like, "Can
What's
you
that
read this?"
say?
Yeah, and I was like, I showed it to my friend Eric, and I was like, "What does this say?" And is this handwriting fine? He was like, "Could you write it better?"
Did you write it in English?
That's like with me, like if I'm writing,
Gosh,
I put my arms on the table and I make sure my arms are like steady, and then I can write.
my
But I
hand
can't
shakes
just
too
sit
much.
over it and do this. I
Yes.
can't do that anymore.
What I usually do is if I'm writing on like a drawing, I usually like make a layer of that just straight
grid.
lines, and then I make a separate layer, and then I write on top of that. But if I'm having to do it in real life, then like you'll be able to read it, but like it's really not great handwriting.
My writing
Yeah,
also goes on an angle.
Yeah, mine goes on an
It goes,
angle.
it goes big from small to big.
Yeah.
And
These
my
stories,
handwriting makes a doctor's writing look good.
these stories are terrifying to hear because
Oh, I'm sorry. Oh no, 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 no.
Sorry.
You're
I
so sorry.
literally work
Oh,
as a
I
copy
forgot. I don't see
editor.
you. I don't see your picture, so I forget you're there.
yeah, I do forget
Sorry.
to hear it time to time.
But
Honey, just stick them on the screen so we don't even see you though. Just great.
oh, my face is swollen, so I'm embarrassed. I'm
Okay,
sorry,
well,
but
what you can do is just don't click on the camera. So your face will be grayed out. Like that.
how do
No,
I?
no,
I
that's
don't
what you're doing.
understand.
That's what you're doing. Okay.
Or
Yeah,
just
that's what she's
peeking and
doing.
saying
No,
hello.
I'm
It's just that we have a
here.
lot of people.
Yeah, no, I'm here.
Okay.
It's got my name, so my
But your
face isn't
camera's not
there.
on. Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Let me
Hey.
But so yeah, I literally have a job
I
as
got you,
copy
Reese.
editor,
Now I see it.
and my
Yeah.
hobbies are reading and writing. So hearing these stories is terrifying.
I
If
see
it helps
it.
at all, my handwriting isn't that bad, and writing is also one of my hobbies. I love writing. I just do it on the computer, and I just do
Yeah.
it on the computer. And I've even accepted a writing job for an independent animated series. So like you can still do it. You can still make it. It's
It's just the
Yeah, I
effort you
couldn't
put
read.
into it.
I couldn't
Yeah.
read after one of my seizures in the EMU, and they're like, "Oh, you'll be fine. You'll be fine." I'm waiting for that. That was 5 years ago, but it's better. But it literally wiped out my comprehension for, I would say it was at least a year and a half. Plus, I was traumatized. There was a lot going on. But that seizure, um, it was so distinctive that I
Yeah.
could not pick up the book that I brought with me. I was reading it before I had the seizure.
That's
So
to me too.
yeah,
Mm.
yeah, but it did come back for me. My biggest problem now is sleep. I can't sleep for nothing. But I did want to ask
You're with
everybody.
all of us, honey.
Well, I mean, I'm getting, if I'm lucky, 3 to 4 hours of sleep, and because I battle with these doctors, I'm not even contacting them. I'm going to let them find out about it from the emergency room.
No,
I don't care.
no,
Yes, I
no.
have to. I have to. No, Tom,
Mm.
let me tell you what happened every time I went to the hospital or the doctors here. I ended up with 2 emergency surgeries within 18 months of each other, 2 seizures that I had in the hospital because they refused to give me medication, one with a head injury and a severe concussion that they never followed up on. And they're still telling me this is all psychogenic. So now that I'm not sleeping, I'm gonna get some bourbon. I think bourbon and Vimpat should go really good together. They took the pre-gambling away. I got to do something. But what I
You need
was
to find
wondering,
another neurologist.
Yeah.
But is
this
that
is the
worth
fifth
the
one.
risk?
This is the sixth one in 5 years. They're all saying the same thing. None of them are looking at my prior medical history. I cannot afford a lawyer, but they are getting my most paperwork in 3 weeks.
Honey.
Yeah, I'm done. So what I want to know, and totally unrelated, but yeah, horror stories, because it's not us, it's the doctors, at least in my case.